Welcome, listeners, to the Rothkoff Law Group's Elder Care Uncovered podcast, where advocacy meets empathy. I'm Kathy. It's great to be here to help synthesize some critical connections in elder care and financial planning.
And I'm Gary. Today, we're opening up a really specialized and I think profoundly important discussion, unlocking veterans' pension benefits for long-term care funding. You know, for millions of veterans and their surviving spouses, this benefit could be an absolute financial necessity. But it's often, well, kind of the last thing people look into when long-term care suddenly becomes unavoidable.
It truly is an overlooked resource, Gary. It really is. Our mission today is pretty laser focused. We want to clarify the intricate details, the specific eligibility criteria, and really the practical strategic application of what the VA calls the Veterans Special Monthly Pension Benefit. Honestly, knowing this stuff can be the difference between, well, exhausting life savings and securing dignified care.
Okay, absolutely. So let's unpack this. Before we get into all the complexity, what exactly is this benefit? And is there a common name people use that might cause some confusion when they're trying to look it up?
Good question. Officially, it's the Veterans Special Monthly Pension. But you're absolutely right. The common name you hear everywhere is the Veterans Aid and Attendance Benefit. Fundamentally, it's a financial assistance program. It's designed for wartime veterans and their surviving spouses who are now facing, increasing health needs.
Right. And it's important to stress this is needs-based, isn't it? It's not like standard retirement pay or disability compensation for injuries that happen during service.
Precisely. Its design is very specific. It provides financial help to those who need the aid of another person. A caregiver could be professional, could be family for just performing daily activities. Or it's for those who are considered housebound because of a permanent disability.
So the trigger isn't simply getting older or just being a veteran. The real trigger is a clear, documentable need for help in daily living.
Exactly right. And while the benefit itself is a tax-free monthly payment you can use flexibly, its real value, its profound value, lies in how it serves as this critical resource. It helps offset those huge costs that come with assisted living or professional in-home care or nursing home fees. Think of it like a monthly supplement, really targeted to those whose needs mean significant financial outlay.
Okay. So if you're thinking about accessing this program, you basically have to satisfy 3 distinct criteria all at once. It's like you said, a tripod, take away one leg, the whole thing collapses. Let's dive deep into those eligibility requirements, the 3 pillars, as we call them.
Mm-hmm. We usually categorize them as service, clinical need, and financial eligibility.
Okay, let's start with pillar 1, wartime service. Mm-hmm. What actually defines a veteran as eligible for this specific pension? What are the rules there?
Okay, so the veteran must show service of at least 90 total days of active duty. That's kind of the first hurdle. But the really crucial addition, the non-negotiable part, is that at least one of those 90 days had to happen during a designated wartime period. And it's not about serving in combat necessarily. It's about serving during a specific time frame the VA defines as wartime. And if the veteran has passed away, the surviving spouse might still qualify based on that veteran's service record.
Got it. Okay. Moving to pillar 2, clinical eligibility.
No.
We mentioned needing help with ADLs. For listeners maybe not familiar with all the elder care jargon, what does that actually mean practically? And how do you prove that need to the VA?
Right. ADL stands for Activities of Daily Living. So this means the person needs consistent hands-on help. We're talking bathing, dressing, using the toilet, moving around, or feeding. The other way to meet this pillar is to be officially deemed housebound due to a permanent disability. And this clinical need, it has to be certified by a physician. The VA needs solid medical evidence showing the impairment is chronic, it's ongoing, and it requires that regular help.
Okay, makes sense. Now we get to pillar 3, which honestly, based on everything we've seen, this seems to be the make or break element for a lot of families. Financial eligibility. This is where people often just stop looking because the thresholds seem, well, pretty low.
This is where it gets really interesting and where the strategic insight of this deep dive really comes in. The VA looks at 2 things: the veteran's income and their overall net worth. For 2024, the VA has set a hard annual net worth limit, $155,356.
Wow. Okay, that number, $155,356, that can sound dauntingly low, especially for someone who's saved carefully their whole life. It also seems like it penalizes saving. What assets actually count towards that net worth?
That's a common reaction. The net worth calculation includes most liquid assets, so bank accounts, investment accounts, stocks, bonds. But there are specific exemptions, like the primary home and usually one car. So if you are above that $155,000 threshold, you aren't immediately eligible. But, and this is the critical strategic point we really need to emphasize, the VA doesn't just look at what you have. They also look at what you don't have anymore because you had to spend it on care.
Okay, let's really get into that mechanism because that seems to be the aha moment for many people.
Yeah.
How does the actual cost of care change my financial eligibility picture?
Right. So the VA considers your income, but then they subtract what they call unreimbursed medical expenses, or UMEs. These UMEs are expenses you pay out of pocket. Things like prescription co-pays, insurance premiums, and crucially, the cost of that long-term care assisted living bills, home care agency fees, anything not covered by insurance.
Okay, so let's try a quick, simplified example. Let's say a veteran or surviving spouse has an annual income of maybe $30,000 from Social Security and a small pension. Normally, that income level might disqualify them, but now they're in an assisted living facility, and it's costing $6,000 a month. That's, what, $72,000 a year in UMEs?
Exactly. The VA uses a specific calculation. They take that $30,000 income and subtract the $72,000 in UMEs. Because the care costs are so much higher than the income, the VA views their net income, for eligibility purposes anyway, as effectively zero, or even a negative number. This makes them income eligible, even though technically they still have that $30,000 coming in.
Wow. So the key insight here really is that for the VA, the more expensive and necessary your care needs become, the easier it actually is to fall below the income threshold. Because the cost of that care acts like this massive deductible against income.
It completely flips the perspective, doesn't it? The challenge then becomes that net worth cap, the $155,000. If a family has, say, $300,000 in savings, they first have to bring that net worth down before they can become financially eligible on that front.
Right, which leads us straight to the strategic role we absolutely have to highlight, the function of a public benefits specialist. Because if you have too much net worth, but you tick the boxes for service and clinical need, you can't just, spend it all on cruises to qualify.
Oh, absolutely not. No. The VA has a 36-month look-back period for asset transfers. It's similar to Medicaid in concept, but the application is different. And this is precisely where a public benefits specialist, often working closely with an elder law attorney, becomes, indispensable. They're not just filling out forms. These are experts in legally and ethically restructuring assets to meet the VO's rules.
So how does that asset structuring work? How do they help someone actually attain eligibility?
Well, it involves strategies like converting countable assets, that extra cash or investments, into non-countable assets. This could mean buying something like an immediate annuity that pays out income over time, or maybe paying off existing debt, or perhaps setting up a specific type of irrevocable trust designed to protect assets while still meeting the VA's financial rules. The goal is always to help clients legally get eligible without, burning through their resources too quickly or accidentally breaking the VA's complex rules.
Yeah, that level of guidance seems absolutely vital, especially when you're dealing with the kind of dollar figures involved in long-term care. So, assuming eligibility is secured, how does this tax-free monthly benefit actually translate into care? Where can people spend this money?
This financial support can be directed pretty much towards any setting where care is being provided. So that includes assisted living community fees, the wages you pay to an in-home caregiver, or nursing home care costs. Honestly, for families facing these huge financial challenges, often $5,000, $10,000, even $12,000 per month, this support can be a genuine lifeline. It makes quality, necessary care possible.
Okay. Let's briefly just touch on the application process itself. Sounds like it's less about a simple checklist and more about gathering really solid evidence. What are the sort of 4 key steps to applying for the veteran's pension?
Right. First off, and most practically, is step 1. Gather necessary documents. You absolutely have to collect the discharge papers like the DD-214, all the comprehensive financial information, and detailed medical records. Those records need to unequivocally prove that clinical need we talked about. Everything has to line up perfectly.
Okay, and step 2 is that initial professional review.
Yes, determine eligibility. And often, this step is best performed by a professional benefits specialist. This is where you confirm the veteran meets all 3 pillars: service, clinical, and financial. And if they don't meet the financial requirements yet, this is the stage where that asset restructuring planning happens.
Right. Then step 3 is the submission itself.
You complete and submit the application package. That's essentially the correct VA form plus every single piece of supporting documentation you've gathered. You submit this to the nearest VA regional office. And because the review process can take a while, having a really complete and accurate package filed correctly the first time is key to minimizing delays.
And finally, step 4.
Await the decision. The VA reviews the application, which, yeah, it can take several months. But once approved, the veteran or surviving spouse starts receiving that tax-free monthly benefit, and it's often retroactive back to the month the application was first filed.
I can only imagine how daunting that bureaucracy can feel. The sheer complexity of calculating net worth while factoring in those UMEs, especially when care costs can change month to month, it really underscores why expert guidance is just so important. It's not just a filing process. It feels more like a strategic negotiation with the VA's criteria.
Absolutely. Trying to navigate that 36-month look back and correctly figuring out countable net worth versus what's excluded without professional guidance. It's incredibly risky. It often leads to long delays or even outright denial. The specialist's real value is making sure all those technical requirements are met legally and efficiently.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the fundamental value of this aid and attendance benefit seems crystal clear. It's really a mechanism designed to provide dignified care for those who sacrifice for our country. It offers crucial financial support to families who are facing potentially crushing long-term care costs. It truly honors service through tangible support.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, given that the financial review process leans so heavily on those unreimbursed medical expenses, the UMEs, to help people achieve income eligibility, this raises, I think, an important strategic question for you, the listener, to really consider. How might treating your documentation like a military audit, tracking and categorizing every single care-related cost, from bandages and specialized transportation to medication copays and facility fees, how might that significantly impact your ability to achieve financial eligibility? That documentation isn't just paperwork. Detailed record keeping is actually the strategic leverage point in this whole process.
That is a really powerful final thought, that the meticulous record keeping itself becomes a core part of the successful strategy.
Thank you for joining us for Elder Care Uncovered. If you have questions about veterans benefits, please call Rothkoff Law Group at 877-475-1101.